This is a recording with my very good friend Cameron John Robbins, the gentleman artist. And what we're proposing to do here is going to look through a series of portraits of historical figures as painted by the great man himself. And I will give my indications of what I see in a face. We will look both at the portraits and I will put some images then of those particular individuals beside them. And we'll discuss from both our perspectives and see where the lines meet. So, Cameron, it's over to you. I'm going to start sharing the screen and we'll choose the first image.
Okay.
So, there you go.
Right. So here we have a portrait I've painted of George Washington. And it is my own, but it's also a very close homage to a portrait of Washington painted by Gilbert Stuart. There's a very famous unfinished portrait of Washington by Stuart. And I first saw a full-size reproduction of it when I was a teenager, and it just electrified me in a way that it's hard to articulate. And so the details of this, it's actually, the original's right here. The details of these unfinished edges are basically imitated directly from Stuart, but I've used a different face pose. So it's an homage, but it's also uniquely my own. And I enjoyed that unfinished look so much that I've used it repeatedly since then, particularly in my collection of portraits of the American founding fathers.
This is obviously a portrait of George Washington, a different portrait. Unfortunately, he hasn't been on Facebook lately, so he hasn't presented us with any selfies. And it's not to make a comparison in terms of the portraits themselves. I have no skill with regard to art or art criticism or anything like that. It's just to bring the face up into slightly clearer focus so I can view it from and refer to it from my perspective. One of the things that's immediately apparent is the strength of his nose and the proportion of his nose in terms of the face, and that you can see in Cameron's portrait also. So when we see a nose which is so nicely proportioned in terms of an overall face, it tells us that this is somebody with great drive. They have not just strong, robust physical constitution, but they're also mentally strong. They're also very determined and not easily knocked off course. That's the most apparent thing I would say with regard to this particular portrait. But just one other point I would make is that you notice with Washington on both portraits, understandably, the forehead slants somewhat back. And when you see that with somebody, this is somebody who absorbs information quickly. So if in modern day terms, if you're speaking with somebody and their forehead slants back, you need to present the information clearly and quickly. Because if you are slow and very labored about it, you lose their attention very, very quickly. So that's just a couple of observations based on that one.
That's interesting. The biographies and historical records would bear out everything you just said about Washington.
Good to know. Thank you.